Greetings, friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's.
Lethal Labyrinth.
You know it. We have an honored, esteemed guest today, Sam from the BookTube channel Barely Human. And this is a real pleasure. I've been watching Sam's channel for a while and really appreciate the insight and the humanity that he brings to his reviews. And he often reads these books that are really off the beaten path and make you think. So, Sam, welcome.
Thanks, Sam. Another Sam. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have a lot of fun on my channel. I do mostly like SF, like Sam said, and then I just kind of do random side quests too, with some weird books, just to kind of like keep things different. But yeah, I watch all Sam's videos, and we have fun kind of commenting on each other's stuff. So you might have seen me in his comment section.
Yeah. And I'm always hot in the comment section of yours too. And I love the things that you
Yeah.
do on your channel that you do visually. You really take the visual medium of BookTube and do something with it. Where I'm often just at my desk, you're peeking in windows, for your book on voyeurism, or sitting in the kiddie pool smoking a cigar for your video about the book about, how terrible men are. So I really like how creative you get with it. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I have a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, cool. So I invited Sam on today because we're going to be taking a look at The Man in the Maze by Robert Silverberg. And this was first published in 1969, and it's science fiction. And so I'll just give a quick synopsis, big picture of the book here, and then if you want to add some stuff, Sam.
Sure. Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
So basically, this is based on the Greek myth of Philoctetes, and it's about a space explorer named Richard Muller who is warped by aliens to exude an aura of existential dread. And other humans can no longer stand around him, so he exiles himself to the planet Lemnos and moves into a trap-filled maze constructed by ancient aliens. And years later, the rest of humanity realizes, they need Richard Muller to save them from a new alien species that has appeared, and they need to breach the maze and get Muller out. And the team to do that focuses on two characters. One is named Rowlands, a naive and honest space explorer who's new to his profession, and Boardman, an elderly, cynical government official. So I just that kind of big picture, Sam, so you can fill in some details if you'd like.
No, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it. I think something that I like about Silverberg is the scope of his projects are relatively small. Like it's not some crazy space opera with like 30 characters.
Yeah.
It's like we got a maze, we got the kind of douchey guy, and then we've got the nice guy, and then we've got the Philoctetes or whatever, however you say that character. So it's really simple, and it makes it kind of I don't know. I think that Silverberg is really smooth, like in his writing, and it kind of part of that is because he keeps the scope pretty small for his books, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have like serious stuff to say as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. This isn't like a big Isaac Asimov kind of Foundation and Empire kind of thing. It's just a human drama and, dialed in on these characters. And I think that really lets you feel the humanity in Robert Silverberg's writing. You really get a sense that his characters are kind of real people with real struggles. And one of the things that I liked about this book was how that character Boardman was the one that manipulated Richard Muller into meeting the first alien species, which messed Richard Muller up. And then on the way there, they're like, we got to get Muller to trust us again, knowing full well that he wants the other guy to lie to him and trick him. And what a beautiful human drama that is, man. They're going to try to
It's
win this guy's trust, basically planning to betray him again.
No, I mean it's like the ultimate act of audacity.
Yeah.
He's like he was the one that kind of enabled him to go and destroy his life, by acting as ambassador for humans, and then he also has to be the one to say, I destroyed your life, kind of, but I also need you back. So
Yeah,
that was just wild.
exactly. And then you've got the other guy, Rollins, the naive kind of noob to space exploration, who really wants to just go in there and just tell the truth. Like, hey man, we know we did you dirty, but we need you back so you can save humanity. We'll just, do us a solid here. But the other older guy, Borden, is like, no, we have to trick him. You can't just tell the truth. And it's interesting what happens with that, I think.
No, you're that's a good point because that was the frustration for me reading it. I was like, I can understand like if the future of humanity is literally about to like come crumbling down,
Yeah.
you know, it's okay to go ask this guy for help, but Boardman is just so set to do it in this slimy way, and Ned is trying to kind of convince him otherwise. Yeah, I really like how that played out.
Yeah, that was cool. And one of the things I also think that was interesting was how these characters are multifaceted and there's no easy answers necessarily in Silverberg's work. So, yes, Richard Muller blames Boardman for the accident that got him exiled to the maze, but he also kind of blames himself. He talks a lot about hubris and wanting to explore all these different solar systems and be the first person to meet these new aliens. And it's also kind of, I guess, like the myth of Icarus, where he flies too close to the sun and his wings melt off. You know, he wanted to go out there and have all these adventures, got messed up, and now he lives all by himself on a backwoods planet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And that's that simplicity of Silverberg too, coming in with like, I don't know, and he's got the great messages on top of everything. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of curious to see what was like the main kind of theme or themes that you took out of his book.
I think one of them was, how does the universe operate? So, Boardman's kind of view of the universe is that the universe is like this impersonal machine where bad stuff happens, but it's not like on purpose. There's not like a devil or anything. It's just cause and effect. And sometimes the phrase he uses is you get like ground up in the gears of the machine. So, you know, it could have been anybody that met this first alien species and got messed up like Richard Muller did. It just happened to be him. Whereas
Mm,
you've got the other guy, Rollins, who's more like, hey, you know, the universe can be a good place if we have some faith that it is and do the right thing. And if we tell the truth and we're honest with people. Um, and it's kind of trying to reconcile, like, those competing views of the universe. Like, are there forces of good out there? Are there forces of evil? Or is this all just kind of an impersonal machine? And where do we fit into it? And also, what do we do when whatever runs the universe takes a big shit on our head? You know what I mean? Like, how do we cope with
yeah.
that? You know, how do we cope with suffering in life?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I think it would be hard to blame Mueller, the main character, when you read the book because it's like,
Yeah,
well, first of all, Ned is obviously supposed to be kind of like the young parallel that young version of him,
Ned
which is
Rollins. Yeah,
is right. And Mueller though, like you know, like it's sad that he's like pissed off about the world and doesn't want to be around anyone and everything. But it's like I can't really blame him because he has like you said and like Silverberg says he's been chewed up and spit out by the world.
yeah,
And I don't really know what that means. Like I don't know if Silverberg's trying to make like what he's saying is the right way to go about that. And I don't think he is saying like you're supposed to get jaded about humanity or like you're supposed to be optimistic like Ned. But I think he's just presenting these different views and kind of letting the readers reflect on it, you know,
yeah,
how they see it.
yeah. That's what's so fun about Silverberg. You know, you're given this picture, this story, and then you kind of make of it what you will, and you kind of work through it. And yeah, good book. I liked it. So, do you want to move into like what we liked and didn't like about the book? Now we kind of covered the plot a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. Start us off.
Yeah, sure. So I think what I liked was kind of what we mentioned a bit already, that Silverberg always kind of brings some humanity to his writing. I've read some other books by his, Downward to the Earth and Night Wings. And like you mentioned, they're not these like massive impersonal space dramas. You really focused on like the heroes, these like personal characters. And I did like that the book had some action, but it wasn't like focused on that. It was focused on, how do these human beings deal with suffering? How do they deal with their mistakes? How do they deal with isolation? Um, and I thought taking Greek myth and reworking it into modern SF was a stroke of genius, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was like a cheat code. He doesn't have to write any plot. He
Yeah,
just steals it from old stuff. No, I like similar things. I Yeah, it's funny you say like the non-action part. Yeah, I don't think there's like barely any action. I mean, they like, they like hunt like an animal or something.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. And like I'm pretty biased because I some of my favorite books ever are like by Daniel Quinn, which will just be like a Socratic seminar. And so
Nice.
I think that if you have enough content and like it's making you think enough, you don't have to rely on the crutch of like action. Not that action's a crutch, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is. So no, I just thought this one had some like really, really great themes. And I've read Dying Inside and one other by Silverberg that I'm forgetting the name of.
Mhm.
But yeah, like you said, it's a simple, it's simple, the way that he goes about it. But I thought that he had like really good themes of like use and abuse was what I thought, just kind of getting chewed up and spit out by society sometimes, whether that be like veterans, or I don't know, just like being a human being with friends and with relationships and things like that. And then comfort with discomfort. So I think that like another theme that I thought was super interesting was they had like what are they shape ups where like
Oh
in this
yeah.
future if you're
Yeah.
like 80, it's pretty much like socially inappropriate to not go and get your like body changed so you look like you're like 30 or 40. And I was like, this is really interesting because I mean that's like, that happens now, but not like in the same way where you're completely, but we have plastic surgery and we have like makeup and stuff like that. So I thought, sort of like social expectations of stuff like that was interesting how they put that in a bit of an SF world, and just the more general thing of like people needing to feel comfortable at all times,
Mm.
like how Silverberg, how or Mueller, how he like has that existential dread that emanates from him. And we kind of learn like as Ned gets more comfortable with it almost, it's like it's not like they're feeling terrible, they're just feeling like what's inside themselves in a way. And
Yeah.
so it was sort of this commentary on how like, oh, you know, we just can't really deal with ourselves. And I think that's super true. Like in general, with a lot of people I've met, it's like I don't know, people just struggle to have difficult conversations and stuff like that. So I like that as well. In general, all the themes kind of hit for me, which is, probably my favorite Silverberg book that I've read so far. Maybe Dying Inside is like right up there with it, but great. I really liked it.
Yeah. I think Time of Changes was the other one you read, right?
That's right. That's what it
Yeah.
was. I was
Yeah.
not a big fan of that one, to be honest. So
I haven't read
kind of
that yet.
forgot.
I've got that on my bookshelf. It sounds interesting, but I know you weren't too high on it. Yeah.
There's been better books I've read. There also, if you really want to read a Silverberg, I would read Dying Inside. That kind of reminds me of this, where it's like it's a lot about sort of social isolation, and that
Mm.
one's more about aging as well. So I don't
Okay,
know. I liked
yeah.
it.
I remember your review on that one. Yeah.
hmm
Cool, man. Yeah, I'll check
Um,
it out.
what did you dislike about the book?
I think there were a couple plot holes. So the maze to start with. So this maze that was laced with traps. And some of them are physical, like laser beams or flamethrower traps. Others were psychological, like these mirrors that would show you your deepest desire, and then when you walk toward it, you'd like get electrocuted. And they had to send in a whole bunch of drones to mark the path, and then they had to send in a whole bunch of troops to mark the path. And it took like maybe 100 droids and a handful of people to make it through, and somehow Mueller just made it through on his first try.
Yeah,
And I was always kind of waiting for Silverberg to explain this is how he did that, and it's because of his power that the aliens gave him. But it was just kind of explained like, well, I guess he, just felt like he had nothing to lose, so he just like marched in confidently, and I wasn't really buying that too much.
okay, dude, good point. Because that was actually a question I had to bring up to you.
Yeah,
Because I was like, why do you think, was there supposed to, maybe there is some sort of meaning that, as to why he got through, but you're right, they never explicitly explain it. And I like how they're just throwing guys, they're like, we have all this like cannon fodder. They killed like five guys. They're like,
yeah,
basically like, start walking in a different direction, and then whoever dies, we're not going that way. And that's like, that was their MO for getting into there. But no, they never explain why Mueller just pranced in there.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been that hard. All he would have to do is just add a sentence like, "The power came with some precognitive abilities." Boom.
Mhm. Yeah,
And it
exactly.
would have been fine. But yeah. How about you? What were some things that you didn't quite care for in the book?
Well, it's a general thing in science fiction, but um and I know you're supposed to read it with the context of, when it was written, and this was in 1968.
Yeah.
But I have never read like the three Silverberg books. I've read every woman is just like a
Oh
sexual
yeah.
object.
Yeah, I was gonna mention
Um,
that too. His handling women.
yeah, it's funny. Like, like literally every single one is like, I don't know. They even and they're like, oh, we can't bring women here. Like, they're too like, I don't know, dainty to die or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's I think that when you do read earlier books, you can't read it with the context of today. Just but it's still there is something that kind of uh, I don't know. It's just a little grimy reading, and I can still have my preferences too.
Yeah.
Um, I do think it was so funny to have like the way he writes women too, like they had like the woman cubes. Do you remember
Oh yeah,
that?
the woman cubes. Yep.
Like so this they're like I don't know. He's like because he doesn't have women with him. I don't know. Like he has to like I don't know get his fix somehow. So he has like woman cubes, which I'm assuming is some sort of like pornographic box or something. But I was like, this is very interesting sci-fi. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's a little bit. Silverberg is a bit of a not great writer of women, but overall, most of it was. I think there's like also sort of a cap on like the simplicity of a book like this. It can't be like my favorite book of all time because it's like okay, the themes are pretty straightforward. There's not really any crazy environments or anything like that, but for the most part, I liked it. I just there are always like a few little things with Silverberg books that I struggle to look past.
Yeah, he's a bit cringe with that. Sometimes he's able to kind of weave that in a little bit better, like in Downward to the Earth. The character comes across a love interest, and she is kind of part of the temptation for him to kind of go native and stay on this jungle planet, and it like fits a little bit better. But in this book, all like the sexual stuff just felt like really tacked on. And like he was just like, well, we got to have some TNA in our book, otherwise the dudes aren't gonna buy it. And he just like kind of put it on, and yeah, it would have been easy to like maybe dial that back, maybe just talk about like Muller's one past love interest and how he lost her. I think that would be appropriate, but like all the random stuff that they kind of added on, I felt it was a little unnecessary. And they could have taken the starship captain that kind of led the troops through the maze and just made her a woman, so you have at least one woman character that's just not there for, the TNA factor. I think would have solved
Yeah,
that problem pretty easily.
yeah. I no, I agree with you. It would have been easy to swap one. Um, but yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
1968 book, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right, so let's see. Anything else that you want to say about liking or disliking the book?
I mean, I just think, I could just talk more about the themes, but to me it was succinct. It was a good mix of like, I think a book is good when you start thinking about it outside when you're reading,
Mm.
or at least that's kind of a heuristic that I take as to like how much I'm getting out of the book. And for all these things I just mentioned, I was thinking about it outside of reading
Yeah,
and
me too.
yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. So, do you give books ratings?
I don't, but I will
Okay.
on your channel.
Okay, and if you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to.
No, it's fine. I
Yeah.
just I just when in Rome, right? So I gave it a 7 woman cubes out of 10 because I think that it has a lot of
Nice.
a lot of great themes. And I especially liked kind of how it talked about the isolation, and I really connected it to like, you know, veterans and how they'll just, come back from something that's seen as valiant, like
Yeah.
war. And then when it's like, oh God, they actually have, you know, some issues that need to be helped, then that's sort of when they're isolated, just like Robert Mueller. But I don't know, I really like that. Like I said, there's a limit of how good it could be because of I don't know, the scope of it is a little bit more narrow.
Yeah.
But Overall, 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 5 stars out of 5. Um, and my rating system is a little bit quirky because there's actually a tier above that, 5 stars God tier, and there have been some Silverberg books that have made it into that. In fact,
What ones? Do you remember?
I think both books that I read made it into God tier. I know Nightwings definitely did, and Downward to the Earth either was 5 stars or God tier as well, because of the beautiful humanity that they brought to the story. And this I think also had that, but the sexual ickiness was just a little bit higher on this one than on the other two books that I read. And again, just like how do you make it into the maze? I don't really worry too much about plot holes because I'm more interested in like as long as it like loosely holds together, I'm okay with it. I'm a writer myself, and like plot holes are everywhere. Like it's so hard to think of every plot hole and like get every single one like ironed out. So if there's an occasional plot hole or two, like I'm cool with it. But I kind of felt like not explaining like how we got in the middle of the maze was kind of a bit of an oversight for me. But I still thought it was good. I liked it.
Well, and also, I feel like the point of the book was not like when you don't write a space opera and it's more of social science fiction like this,
Yeah,
it's like I don't know, the plot holes seem less important too. So like it's annoying,
yeah,
I agree with you, but like I don't know, I can forgive it more when the point is not the action of getting into the maze, you know what I mean?
yeah. Exactly. Cool. So then the other thing we had here was Sam and I are both deep thinkers. We like to have our deep thinks, and so we had some questions here to ask each other. Do you want to ask some of yours first, or you want me to start off? Or
You go first, you go first.
okay, so here we
Mine's a
go.
little bit more serious,
All right, yeah. Well, mine can get a little serious too. They're a bit deep
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So the first one is so in the book, Richard Muller, because of what the aliens did to him, he exudes kind of this primordial humanness, which is expressed as like this existential dread that people feel when they get too close to him. And my kind of question is, if people could exude the content of their humanity for others to experience, what qualities or sensations do you think most people would exude? So basically, do you think the existential dread is accurate, or is there some kind of other quality or feeling that people would get that kind of better describes essential humanity?
Oh man. So okay, I think it would very much change based on where you are. If
Mm,
you're like at a grocery store versus if you're like on a college campus, versus like if you're hanging out with a friend. I would
yeah.
say, let's see. So he said the existential dread. I would expect that for sure, some places. Um, but I think more so, I think there would be a lot of anxiety. Like when you're out around
Mm,
people, a lot of people have like social anxiety, and it would just be like an on edge nature or something like that. But I also think like when you're with friends or something, the emanation of like comfort and like
mm,
camaraderie and stuff like that, it could be like a positive thing too, which they obviously, for Mueller, it's all negative. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting response, because now that you mention it, I did think a couple times when I was reading it, what if Mueller like worked on himself and like worked on his personal issues? Could he like exude like happiness or joy or compassion? Maybe bravery or something like that. But I guess they didn't really take it in that direction. But that could have been another way out of the maze for him.
Yeah, that is kind of like another like plot hole I will say is like they were saying that it's like he kind of exuded what he felt within himself. But like even just statistically, you would think he would not feel like this consistent abject like sadness about life.
Yeah,
Like what about like when he was like eating like a piece of candy or something, you'd think he would have some, I guess if it's more like just the very core like I don't know, foundation of himself than it
yeah,
would be, but you're right. Like you would think like he would probably have moments where he's feeling better. So maybe I don't know, maybe Silverberg's trying to make it be more like a very base layer, like what's at your core. And for Mueller, it must just be awful, I guess.
yeah. Well, I think if you kind of go in an existential psychology direction with it, a lot of human behavior is motivated by the awareness or the defense against the fact that we're all going to die. And I guess what he's trying to say is if you drill down deep enough, there's that awareness of like, oh shit, like I'm going to die and, that'll be it. Or what happens next. And that's kind of like the primordial ooze of the consciousness that, Mueller exudes. But I kind of agree with you. Like, I think there's a lot more to people than that.
Okay, what do you think would be like the best place to go if everyone was like, I don't know, like giving off their like inner thoughts? I'm trying to think of like
Yeah.
some like really happy concert or like maybe like around like an elementary school where it's just these like kids at recess or something like that, like
Yeah.
positive
Yeah.
energy. I don't know.
Yeah. I know there's lots of context dependent situations, but how about even say more important than like where the people are, what they're doing? I mean, that would have some effect on it, but I think it's more of like how much work have you done on yourself? Because I know some people that can be pretty content in awful situations, but also some people that can be just miserable when they've got so much going for them. You know what I mean?
Maybe like a Tibetan monastery with all these like enlightened monks or something that have completely figured it out, right? That's probably a very serene vibe that they're giving off.
Yeah, could be. I've spent some time in some monasteries, and it's a thing that you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Did you want to ask me a question, or you want me to go to my next one, or
Yeah, I guess I'll do one here. So,
sure?
this one is more of a personal one. So Mueller kind of, or sorry, Silverberg takes a lot of time hinting at the difficulty of Mueller's reintegration
Yeah.
back into society. And for me, I took that a lot in terms of like, as I mentioned earlier, veterans coming back after having dealt with, difficult things overseas. And I was wondering, since you're a veteran, uh, can you speak a little on the difficulty, if any, that you experienced trying to kind of discuss your time in combat to those that, you loved? Because I'm sure you came back and you had people that you cared about and that cared about you. But it is a little bit um, frowned upon. I don't know, to like just like be talking about these really difficult times. So how was that sort of reintegration when like that was probably something that, it was a big part of you when you came back? So what was that kind of like? And if you want to speak just kind of in general to that experience.
Yeah, sure. So the way that I actually heard about this Greek myth of Philoctetes was I did a book therapy group with other veterans, and when the professor that co-facilitated the group was giving us options for books, she said, "Oh, we could read the book Philoctetes." And I said, "Oh, what's that about?" And she says, "It's about a Greek soldier who gets wounded by a snake, and his wound is so festering and stinky, and he complains so much that his comrades abandon him on a deserted island. And then later on, they realize, oops, the oracles say that we need this guy to win the Trojan War, and they got to go back and get him and persuade him to rejoin the efforts." And when she said that, I laughed so hard, like the group had to just come to a pause while I laughed my ass off, because it sounded like exactly the kind of thing that would happen in the military and in real life. So I love that myth of Philoctetes, and yeah, for sure, there's this kind of surface view that veterans are heroes, and we love you veterans. And I also want to say that, I'm a veteran, I don't speak for all veterans.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of my experience, there's this kind of surface like, yeah, thanks for your service. Yahoo veterans will put up a park for you. But below that, there's some social institutions like the VA and the vet centers to help veterans, and that is good. I don't want to discount that those things are there. They are helpful. In terms of my day-to-day experience of just, rando people on the street, people don't really want to engage with veterans beyond that surface, thanks for your service. And they definitely don't want to deal with veterans when they are changed from their war experiences. And I often find that on a social level and also on an individual level, when there's qualities in a person in a society that are difficult to acknowledge, such as violence or aggression or the desire to kill, rather than society say, well, we start these wars and people get killed and hurt and we destroy stuff, and that's a decision that we all made as a free democratic society, and we watch, violent movies and stuff like that. Rather than own that, they kind of go, oh, well, that's not really me. I'm a nice person. Where can we put all these, negative attributes on? Oh, how about this 6 foot tall, bald, muscular dude. Let's dump that all on him. And I tend to get accusations that I'm a meanie or an aggressive or that I'm bully, even when I'm just kind of like existing and minding my own business. Now, I have done a lot of personal work because there were times where I was a bully or I was aggressive and I did things I shouldn't have done. And I own that and I recognize it. So I try to move forward and be a decent human being. But a lot of times, I kind of feel like veterans are just kind of like the lightning rod or the place that society can just dump its misplaced responsibility for war. And I also think that the gratitude for veterans is kind of false because at first, around 9/11 and those Iraq wars and Afghanistan wars, everybody was like, yeah, veterans are heroes. And now you got this different administration in power, and we're not fighting those wars anymore, and they're kind of forgotten. And so now it's a little bit more like, maybe we can cut some VA services. Maybe we can cut Social Security. People on public assistance or that might need some of those benefits because they're disabled from the war experiences, they're takers and not makers. They're parasites. And so it's kind of this interesting pipeline from hero to parasite. But what I take from this book and from the myth of Philoctetes is I don't have to be stuck on an island of bitterness. People can do what they do and treat me like shit, but hey, I can still choose to get up in the morning and be happy and enjoy my life and engage in the world and be a decent human being. And I think that's kind of what, this book and Philoctetes are all about. Like, you can get pooped on in life and you don't have to be all bitter about it. Like, you can move forward and be a happy person. That's kind of where I'm at with things.
Well said. I think there was a quote in there at some point that was like, I mean, this isn't what he said, but the gist of it was, I really don't like society, but I also don't want to be lonely.
Yeah.
I remember he like wanted to go back, and he was saying something like that, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, that really like hit for me because yeah, I mean, he I don't think he ever took that step that you sort of just talked about that you have, accepting the bad that comes with the good of humanity, but he definitely was wanting that. And I like how, and I don't mean to just make it into like a veterans thing, because I think in general, like this type of isolation is, I don't know, like even, I've experienced it too. Like I had a sort of like a traumatic health event, and it was kind of funny because, before things are real, you got friends being like, I'll support you through anything.
Yep.
Kind of just that, broad support. And then sometimes when the going gets tough, it's like, oh, I really don't want to deal with that now. So I definitely lost some friends who couldn't handle stuff like that. So, yeah, just in general, this book applied to a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I do think toward the end he kind of gets there though. I think that was where he kind of has the option to like kill himself with the space laser gun, or help them. And, he does decide, well, I guess I'll go with you guys. And Philoctetes in the Greek myth does the same thing. He's like, well, you guys are assholes, but I'm still going to go with you because, the alternative is just to stay here on this desert island. And that's what I like, where by stepping out of the maze, Richard Muller does eventually get redeemed. And, how lost in bitterness do you want to be? Because everybody gets used in some way. It's not just veterans. Lots of demographics, and just pretty much anyone has always been kind of taken advantage of and kind of thrown away in some capacity, I think, in our society. And, do you want to be bitter and isolated and pissed off, or do you want to engage and try to make the world a better place? It's kind of what this is all about. Yeah, cool.
He kind of like half did it though, because he went and he helped, and then I think he goes back right after.
Oh yeah, that is
so
true. He does go back afterwards. Yeah.
But he does remain connected with Ned, if I remember correctly, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And another difference between the myth and this book is, in the Greek myth, Philoctetes gets put on the island. He doesn't choose to go there. His comrades put him there. In The Man on the Maze, he kind of goes like, well, if nobody likes me, I'm going to go live on the planet of Lemnos in the maze. And he kind of like does it to himself. So that's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah. No, I specifically, you had mentioned that to me before,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm definitely, now I'm glad I know that, but I'm not going to read like what the ending or anything is because I don't want to spoil,
Yeah.
you know?
Cool. So, would you like me to ask you my next question? You got another for me, or
Go for it.
okay? So this is a two-parter. If you could have a paradise world constructed just for you, what would it be like? And would you choose to live there for the rest of your life if it meant being totally isolated?
Well, I feel like okay, so I live in Minnesota
Mm-hmm.
and it's really nice right now because it's like 70s.
Nice.
But when it's like, okay, when you have to put on like a coat and like boots and like everything just to take out your trash, it becomes the worst. So I
Yeah.
think my world would be like hot enough where you could go in the water
Mm.
and it was enjoyable and relaxing. So it would be like 80, but not like crazy hot. So maybe like Hawaii vibes, something like that. But I am very like I definitely would not do that because I am very very connected to people, or at least I try to be. I'll say this: I am not super connected because I work from home every
Mm.
day, and like I just live in this basement.
Mm.
Um, and so but I always try to force myself to connect with someone every day, you know. And I don't know how someone would be like Mueller and like live for years and years and years without communication with people, because to me that's like 90% of life, you know, is the connections you make with people. So I would not be there, but I would certainly be missing out on the Hawaii beautiful like beach world that I would create.
Yeah. Wise choice. I think as social creatures, we're just kind of engineered to need other people. You know, even if it's just one other person. Um, yeah. How could a world be a paradise with at least another person to enjoy it with, that kind of thing.
What would you pick?
Um, well, I think my paradise world would be. I have this fantasy picture, and it's in my bathroom, and it's of these beautiful women playing these exotic instruments. And in the background, there's these gigantic plateaus and these strange trees, and there's all these beautiful clouds and sunlight. And I've always thought it'd be fun to like jog up one of those hills and then like get a vista view and then like jog back down. So someplace with like incredible jogging where I could go up and down and all through the mountains and really be outdoors and just let it rip with the jogging. I think would be fun. And again,
Mm,
yeah, I would absolutely miss my kids. I don't think any paradise world is worth being away from them. And there have been times in my life where I've been homeless and just totally disconnected from pretty much everybody, and it sucks and it's like no fun. And yeah, I'm a social creature. That's how I'm designed. And really, to enjoy any kind of paradise world, I'd have to be some kind of other creature that isn't wired to need other people to really be okay with it, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good call on like the fantasy picture thing, because I definitely do that. Like I have all these pictures that I'll save on my computer or like I'll find on Reddit of like relaxing sci-fi like aesthetics.
Yeah.
So I've got this one, it's like this one that I actually like I printed off and I framed in my room,
Oh, cool.
and it's like a cat sitting on like the edge of a spaceship with like it's called Ship's Cat. You could probably find it someone like if you're watching and you Google it, it's really cool.
Hmm.
And it's like sitting next to like a little glass of wine in like the porthole of like some sci-fi ship, and I'm just like, oh, that would be. I think the freedom too. This is kind of like going a little not like your question, because I'm not saying like a place, I'm saying like a ship. I think the freedom of having some sort of like, I don't know, ship where like in Star Wars you just planet hop or something like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of a fantasy of mine. So that would probably be mine. But in that way you would be seeing people all the time,
Yeah.
because you'd be exploring worlds. But yeah.
Cool, man. Very nice. Well, those are my deep think questions. Did you have any more for me, or
I did, but I think we kind of went over it in our discussion. So yeah, I think I'm good.
cool, man? Well, any closing words before we wrap it up and say goodbye to our lovely viewers?
Well, I will say, check out Sam's book, The Book of Deogenesis, and then watch my review of it.
Oh
If
yeah,
you guys
definitely
haven't already, it's
appreciate
a
that.
great
Yeah.
book. And we had a fun discussion on my channel as well. But yeah, no, this was super fun. If you guys want to check out my channel, Yeah, it's just Barely Human. Barely Human 77. And yeah, I'm sure I'll have Sam back on there too.
Yeah, definitely. Check out Sam's channel. To be blunt, the production values and the deep thinks are superior to mine. It's a
Uh,
great place to be and learn about SF Bucks. So, Sam, thanks so much for coming on, man. This was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
yeah, thanks, Sam. It was really fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're doing well.
See you guys.
Yep. Bye.